Hi, Black Cat Recapped here. Today I am going to explain an action movie named Eega. In the beginning, we meet a rich and powerful businessman named Sudeep. He is practicing shooting a gun at a training center and impresses everyone by hitting every target. His friend and business partner, Aditya, approaches him during the training session. Aditya reminds Sudeep that they have an important business meeting soon, but Sudeep is unaware of it and ignores the reminder. Instead, Sudeep approaches a young woman on the field and flirtatiously teaches her how to shoot. Meanwhile, there is a young artist named Bindu who is unsatisfied with her work on a tiny heart sculpture. When the power goes out, she moves her setup next to the window and tries to use the moonlight to finish her sculpture. Nani, Bindu's neighbor who has a crush on her, notices her struggling due to the darkness. He creates a makeshift light bulb using a torchlight and aluminum foil, allowing Bindu to complete her sculpture. After finishing, Bindu closes her window and goes to sleep without acknowledging Nani's help. Nani's friend criticizes Bindu for not thanking him, but Nani, who is smitten with love, believes that Bindu closed the window to help him. He thinks that if she had kept the window open, he would have waited for her all night. The next day, Sudeep throws a fancy party to celebrate his company's 3rd anniversary. One of his difficult clients gives him a file as a gift. Aditya is surprised by the client's sudden agreement to sign the papers, but his surprise turns into shock when he realizes that the client's wife is the same woman whom Sudeep had seduced at the training center. Sudeep has managed to close a deal with the client using his relationship with the client's wife. Following this success, Sudeep and Aditya go to a bar to have a drink and celebrate. While they are talking, we learn that Sudeep's wealth comes from his deceased wife, whom he killed a few years ago. Bindu, besides being a miniature artist, also runs an NGO called Project 551 that supports children's education. However, the organization is low on funds. Someone suggests that Bindu arrange a meeting with Sudeep because his company is interested in supporting a non-profit organization. When Bindu visits Sudeep's office and talks about her organization's charitable work, Sudeep becomes instantly attracted to her beauty. Despite her explanation, he is too distracted by checking her out. At the end of the meeting, Sudeep surprises Bindu by giving her a check of 15 lakh rupees. She thanks him, unaware of his true intentions. A few days later, they distribute books and stationery to underprivileged students in their neighborhood. After the program, Sudeep invites Bindu to have lunch at a fancy restaurant. When they are ready to order, Bindu receives a text from Nani, who compliments her appearance. She notices Nani watching her from across the restaurant, and she becomes captivated by him, completely ignoring Sudeep. Sudeep feels hurt and his ego is wounded when he realizes that Bindu is more interested in someone else. After the meal, Sudeep offers to drive Bindu home, but she stops him midway, claiming she needs to shop for groceries. Bindu intentionally sends Nani a blank text, knowing he will interpret it as a sign and come to her. As predicted, Nani rushes to her side. The two of them walk home in silence. However, after Bindu enters her house, a white van passes by, and the people inside kidnap Nani. They take Nani to an abandoned house and brutally beat him. Sudeep arrives and continues to assault him. When Nani realizes that Sudeep is attacking him because of Bindu, he vows that anyone who tries to harm Bindu will meet their demise at his hands. This angers Sudeep even more, and he beats Nani to death. Shortly after, Nani's corpse emits a blue glow, and the light transfers to a nearby fly's egg. The next morning, Nani's lifeless body is found in the middle of the road, and corrupt policemen declare it an accident. Bindu witnesses his body being taken away in an ambulance and is devastated. 10 days later, the egg struck by the strange light hatches, giving birth to a baby fly. Unbeknownst to Bindu, this fly is Nani reborn with the purpose of seeking revenge on his killer. At first, Nani doesn't remember his past life and attempts to fly away but finds his wings stuck to his body. He nearly dies when he is trapped in flowing water, but eventually manages to free his wings and takes flight. Nani explores his new life, marveling at floating bubbles and children playing. He starts to play with the bubbles, popping them as they float. After getting stuck on a cricket ball, Nani lands on a partially eaten apple. Soon, he is chased by a bird and eventually enters a house. Inside the house, a human accidentally drowns Nani in a mug of water. Nani realizes that the person holding the glass is Sudeep when he sees his face. Suddenly, the fly remembers his past life and becomes enraged. He flies out of the drink and attacks Sudeep, but as a fly, he can barely cause any harm. Sudeep easily swats Nani to the ground. Recalling Bindu, Nani rushes to her house and becomes overwhelmed with emotions upon seeing her. He tries to get her attention, but being only a tiny fly, Bindu doesn't notice him. Later, when Bindu is in her office, Sudeep visits her. He offers his condolences for Nani's death and tries to get closer to her. The fly enters Sudeep's ear, attempting to protect Bindu even in his fly form. In the following scene, Sudeep enters a wooden steam bath. As his limbs are bound, the fly takes action, moving the box and nearly causing Sudeep to run into a sharp shower handle. In his attempt to kill the fly, Sudeep runs outside naked, embarrassing himself in front of his business partners and clients. Later, Sudeep is in the office when he invites Bindu to accompany him to Delhi for the betterment of their organization. They decide to leave the next day. However, to prevent them from going, the fly disturbs Sudeep's sleep at night. Despite hours passing, Sudeep is unable to fall asleep due to the persistent annoyance caused by the fly. Finally, Sudeep wraps himself in a bedsheet and manages to sleep for a few minutes. Later, Bindu calls Sudeep and informs him that they need to catch their flight within half an hour. Sudeep rushes to the airport, but Nani joins him as well. Initially, the fly causes trouble for a traffic policeman, making him move his hand randomly and causing a traffic jam. When Sudeep changes cars, the fly attacks his eye, leading to an accident. As Sudeep is trapped in the car seat, the fly writes, "I will kill you," on the glass using dust. After being rescued, Sudeep becomes paranoid, constantly carrying fly spray to protect himself. People around him think he has gone mad. Bindu comes to meet him, which infuriates the fly. When it attempts to attack Sudeep again, Bindu sprays it with fly repellent, causing it to fall off the window and land on a bush. The fly is on the verge of dying when a water sprinkler washes off the toxin from its body. Sudeep consults an entomologist to inquire if flies can seek revenge. The doctor advises him to rest, believing that Sudeep is simply experiencing delusions. However, Sudeep refuses to believe anyone and goes to the junkyard where his wrecked car was taken. There, he encounters a peculiar man who warns him that his wealth is about to burn. Ignoring the man, Sudeep searches the wreckage and discovers a shattered glass with the word "kill" on it, confirming his suspicion that the fly was indeed attempting to kill him. The next day, Nani observes Bindu crying as she reminisces about his death. He uses her teardrops on the table to write her a message. Bindu is astonished when she reads it. She cradles the fly in her hand and asks if it is truly Nani. The fly nods, confirming that it has been reborn. In this way, the fly manages to communicate to Bindu that Sudeep killed him to get closer to her. Overwhelmed with shock, Bindu believes the fly and promises to help seek revenge on Sudeep. Bindu's skill as a miniature artist proves beneficial as she creates tiny glasses for the fly to protect it from fly repellent sprays. Sudeep instructs his bodyguards to search for the fly, but they are unsuccessful. He also realizes that the usual repellents don't work against the fly. Nani, the fly, tries different tactics to harm Sudeep. He sets Sudeep's bed on fire, makes him drink fly bait, and prevents him from sleeping at night. However, Nani realizes he needs to do something extraordinary to actually kill Sudeep. He decides to fill a functioning cannon with gunpowder and ignite it at the right time to eliminate Sudeep. Over the next few days, Bindu fills a small bucket with gunpowder that Nani drops into the cannon. However, their plan fails when someone inserts tissue paper into the cannon's barrel. The following day, Sudeep renovates his house with insect-proof features to keep the fly out. As a result, Bindu has to personally go to Sudeep's house to let Nani in. Sudeep tries to make inappropriate advances towards Bindu, but the fly uses its modified claws to dig into his skin, forcing him to back off. The next day, Sudeep has an important meeting with investors who are considering funding his upcoming project. However, due to his lack of sleep and fear of flies, he starts rambling about fly repellent sprays in the middle of the presentation. Moreover, Nani lands on an investor's head, causing Sudeep to pour a pot of liquid on him. The disastrous meeting results in the investors refusing to fund the project, leaving Sudeep and his company in debt. the income tax officers are informed about Sudeep's hidden black money in the office. Desperate to move the money elsewhere, Sudeep attempts to retrieve it, but due to the fly's interference, his money ends up getting burnt to ashes, leaving him almost penniless. In a moment of recollection, Sudeep remembers the man he encountered at the dumping site who had warned him about his wealth burning. He seeks out the man, named Tantra, who is an expert in black magic. With Tantra's assistance, Sudeep learns that the fly is Nani, reborn to seek revenge. They perform a ritual and create two evil birds to capture Nani, but he manages to kill both of them. As the glass doors lock and smoke fills the house, Sudeep and Tantra find themselves trapped. They are later saved by Aditya. Upon watching the CCTV footage, Sudeep discovers that Bindu was the one who allowed the fly into the house. Knowing this secret, Sudeep decides to use her to eliminate the fly. He takes Bindu hostage and calls for Nani to appear. To protect Bindu, Nani reluctantly confronts Sudeep. While Sudeep is distracted by the fly, Bindu manages to hide. Nani picks up a needle and aims it at Sudeep's eye, but Sudeep cleverly uses a magnet to trap the needle. Sudeep then locates Bindu hiding in a corner, and once again holds her hostage. During this confrontation, Sudeep cuts off Nani's wing while mocking both of them. However, Nani notices that the paper ball obstructing the cannon has fallen out, indicating that it can be fired again. Using his last bit of strength, Nani covers himself in gunpowder, leaps through the flame of a burning match, and enters the previously loaded cannon. The projectile passes through Sudeep, ultimately killing him.